Hello and welcome back to This Property Life, podcast brought to you by Property Wealth System. I'm Nick Claydon. I'm one of the Property Wealth System mentors and trainers. And I'm here with a very special guest today. We are here with Sarah Blaney, my very good friend and property investor, and also a mentor and trainer with Property Wealth System. So we're going to have a good old chat around some mentorship stories, but we're also going to introduce a few new concepts into the podcast. But firstly, hi Sarah, welcome.
Hello Nick, and here we are on a really sweltering day in September, just as all the kids have gone back to school, summer arrives.
Yes, I know, not so much in Scotland, but you know, we got a bit of sunshine today. Yeah, Sarah, so we're going to have a good chat around some mentorship stuff. So we'll talk some stories and use some examples of some of our students and what they've done and what they've achieved. I'm also going to bring in a few concepts as well, aren't we, Sarah? So we had a chat about this, and we keep getting asked the same kinds of questions from a lot of our guests and a lot of our students in Property Wealth System. So, tell us about some of those questions that we're getting, Sarah, and what we're going to build into the podcast.
So I think what people love about the podcast is that it's stories of ordinary people doing stuff in property. So we've got some great stories, we've got some normal stories, but all of it's about property and all about people and how they've started and achieved. And I guess that's kind of some of the questions that have come through that people always want to have answered is, you know, well, why do you get started in property? Like, what is the big why of why you're doing things? What key behaviours do we think and do our guests think make a good property investor? And then the one that I think comes through all the time, and one that I'm really fascinated by as well, is what do you wish you knew? What do you wish you'd known back then when you started that you know now? So it's the hindsight question, which I think is fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that one. And I think it's always good to find out, you know, what's everyone doing out there as well. So I think we're going to be asking everybody, you know, what is your current strategy and why that particular strategy, and how does it align perhaps with, you know, the why are you doing this? And so I always find that fascinating when I'm talking to more experienced investors further down the line. And for those of you who are maybe just starting out or kind of early on in your journey, you could see, you know, how someone that's been doing it 10, 15 years, how they, you know, adapt and change their strategies over time. But you'll probably always find the successful ones are aligning it quite closely to the big why, that question that we all ask ourselves, that, you know, that gets us through the tough times.
Yeah, I think that is the thing with having a why do you do something, because when barriers come along and something pops up that puts you off the road a little bit, if you're not connected, if that why isn't strong enough for you, you just kind of give up. It's human nature. We all do it. But I think that's why I always say to our PWS students, understand your why truly, connect with it. It will change over time. Things evolve. But if you don't connect with it and have strength with that why, when something tries to derail you, it's easier to give up.
Yeah, absolutely. That massively, you know, resonates with me too, Sarah. And myself and Rick were just delivering one of our implemented training courses at the weekend, the Power Up course, which is great for investors who've maybe made a start and, you know, life gets in the way and suddenly they find themselves, you know, a few months or a year down the line and haven't quite got where they wanted to be. And so that course is a bit of a reset for people. And we, you know, we do kind of start there. We do get people to think about their vision, because for me, if someone has stalled a little bit, I'm going to question that why and say, you know, was that strong enough? Were you giving us the real reason? What is the real reason? We do need to dig into that, because as we know, Sarah, you know, it's quite hard, isn't it, to actually make a success of property. It's I think some people out there think, oh, I can watch a couple of YouTube videos and off I go. You know, this is easy. Go and buy some houses. But you and I know it's a little bit different.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, it's not rocket science. It's buy a house, refinance a house, you know, solve a problem. However, it's really multi-layered, and there's a lot going on. You know, all the time, and they're all different, and you have to wear lots and lots of different hats. And you know, I think that's why one of the questions that we've constantly been asked to ask people is, what are those key behaviours of a property investor? Because whilst it's not a complex thing, the process is very multi-layered, which means that there's lots of things there to trip you up. Yeah, it's an interesting industry. It's very rewarding, but it can be quite lonely. But it ultimately gives you what you put in. I think that's the key.
This is hard, but it's worth it. It is worth it when you've built that portfolio and you can start, to live life differently, to give yourself security and to really kind of build a future. So yeah, I think that's what we'll talk about. So what is your why, Sarah? Why are you doing this?
So for me, I am quite an analytical person, Nick, as you know. The creative side, the vision side, it comes to me, but it's not something that comes as naturally as the analytical side. So for me, defining and describing that why has been something that I have honestly battled with over the years and really had to work at, because I'm not the sort of person that could just go, come up with some big reason for things. It's kind of like, well, I just, I want a better life. And that was it at the beginning. I just wanted it to be a bit better. So I've really had to work on actually what that looks like and what that actually means, so that when it is a bit tough, I can call back on it and say, this is the reasons for it. I think ultimately, Rick and I have a family, we've got kids. My why is kind of all around those, but that's again not strong enough. I need it for myself as well. So I want a simple life. The things I enjoy in life are very simple. I live by the seaside. That was a big why for me. I wanted to move to the seaside. I've achieved that 4 years ago. I want to immerse myself in nature. I want to get a camper van and bugger off around Europe and travel and all of that sort of stuff. I'll be doing that when the kids are of an age that allows, us as a family to either separate a little bit or they come with us, whichever. But that's my why. I want a simple, wholesome kind of a life where I can just not have to rely on working every day, putting hours in every day to have that financial figure that, maintains us as a family. So it's legacy, and it's just doing with my time what I want, and my time I want to be off traveling.
Thank you for that one. All right, so let's get into it then. So 3 key behaviors of a successful property investor. What do you think?
So I think resilience and persistence. I think they're quite similar values. I think that's one of the most important things. Keep turning up every day, keep taking action, just persistently doing things. Don't take things personally would definitely be a second one. So in this business, you will meet lots of big personalities. As in every industry, it has its good and its bad. We have one focus, and that is to solve problems through property. And sometimes you will come across builders or suppliers who don't behave the way that you always want them to. And you've just got to not take things personally. You've got to go, what could I have done in that situation to have made it better? What am I going to learn from it? And how do I go forward? So it's constant problem solving. So I think resilience, don't take things personally. And the third one would be not to take it too seriously, because it is an industry
one of mine.
Oh, did I? There you go.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, but I think it's a really important one. Well, why do you think it's important?
I was going to say, remember to have fun with it. Enjoy the process. Which I think is what. Sorry, I interrupted you, but you were about to say.
Yeah.
And it is. I think you have to, because it can be hard work. Well, not can be. It is hard work. And if you don't enjoy it, what's the point? You might as well just go and have a job that you hate as well. Yeah, I still love going out and seeing smelly houses and having fun with it.
Yeah.
You know, you all know as well. I mean, Rick sometimes been out in Southport looking at properties, and Liverpool looking at properties, and come across all sorts of things like hash farms and all things. You know, we take a few silly photos and get on with it. But you know, it's serious, but we enjoy it. You know, it's fun.
Absolutely. And I think because property can be quite lonely, you have to inject that little bit of fun through it. So I think you can look at it both ways. So you might not like the whole process of property. If you're working with a partner, then you know, divide your roles equally so that you're doing the bits that you really enjoy, and they might have different talents that they can bring to it. That's the bit that they really enjoy. So you know, I think the viewings, if you don't enjoy viewing property, I think that's a bit weird.
I think you're in the wrong game if you don't enjoy
viewing the wrong game. Yeah. So I think after that, you know, we can all sort of pick and choose bits that we like. So some people love the thrill of the deal and the chase of the deal, but as soon as it's done, they're like a bit bored and over it. So the actual implementation of, say, tenant type or whatever it is could be a bit like meh for them. But some people might really love that bit because they're giving someone a home and they're getting to know them and all that sort of side. So I think we all take different bits out of it, but I think you have to find the fun in it, and yeah, don't take it too seriously.
Yeah, I often say on the course of your run, mentoring, etc., that there's a game. It's a bit of a game. You know, you've got to play the game, and games should be fun. All right, so that's number 2. And what is the other question? It is, what do you wish that you had known at the outset that you now know?
Yeah, so this is one that revolves around money. So, Nick, we've often spoken about how we all have different relationships with money.
Yeah.
Much of it is bred into us in our younger years, just by society, parental values, etc., etc. And we all have like generally, most people have a weird relationship with money. They feel they might not deserve it. You know, they feel it's not there for them. All of these sorts of things. Or that, you know, by gaining money for yourself when someone else doesn't have it isn't right. And it's real emotional baggage around it. So mine is around money in that I've often, I think, if I'm brutally honest, felt, why should I have the money? I'm not worthy of having that sort of a wealth. And that's something I've had to work on. And that directly hits on my ability to raise angel money. So in the very beginning, we were investing up in the Northwest, where property prices were a lot cheaper than where I currently live on the South Coast. And the amounts of money that we raised it immediately. And I think, you played a massive part in that in terms of my mindset. But we were raising, 50K and 100K, which is big money. I'm not saying it isn't. But I wish what I'd known is that raising 50K, 100K is actually no different from one person than raising 700K or 1 million from that person. I've always thought that that's out of touch for me, that going to private wealth, private family offices and going, yeah, there's a guy who's got a few 100 million. Why shouldn't I ask them for some of that and show them the opportunity that I have that can make them money? That's always felt out of touch for me. And if I'm honest, it's only been in the last year that has been conversations that I'm having now on a very regular basis, where I've shifted to a few extra noughts at the end is okay. I wish I'd known that at the beginning. It would have accelerated everything a lot quicker.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, that's a great lesson. I think it's one that everyone probably can connect with. Is money raising is such an integral part of what we do. And I thought I'll do my 3 in a minute. I'm sure you're going to ask me my 3, so I'll come on to it. But yeah, it's one of those things we all have to get our heads around in some way, because we can't really get where we want to go without it. And I was probably guilty of probably putting it off a little bit at the beginning, and thinking, well, Caroline's the one with the, she's the one that can chat to anyone and put her front and center, and that's kind of her role, but it's kind of probably not how it's panned out as much. We both have different ways of doing it, and we've both been successful.
Yeah. So Nick, tell everyone listening a little bit about why you and Caroline got started in property.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was all about creating a better life, for sure. We at the time when we started, this is back in 2009, 10. We'd just come out of the recruitment industry. We just set up our own one industry, our own recruitment business. It was kind of lifestyle business, but I think, all sparked actually from when we first got together, and we wanted to go and see you out in Australia. I don't know if you remember that. We wanted to. Yeah, we both had enough holiday left, and we both worked for the same company, and we asked to get 3 weeks. Or you had to ask, even if I was a manager in the business, you still had to ask to get 3 weeks off. It was, you're allowed 11 days in a row, but 3 weeks. I don't know about that. And they caused a real problem about it, to the point that we just thought, even if they say no, we're actually just going to do it anyway. And it kind of got sting in a way. And after that, subsequently, was at our age, in that time, we were in our, what was I, late 20s, might be mid-30s, Sarah. I don't know. Was I? No. I thought, at this age, seriously, I've got to ask somebody for a holiday. And that it's kind of something that you just become accepting of, I guess, if you go and work for somebody else. And during that time as well, our company was, the managing director of the company was going around all the offices, delivering the company vision. And I remember just being so bored with this company vision, going, well, how does that actually, why am I supposed to care about that? As long as I get paid, I really don't care about the company vision. It's my company. You know what I mean? So it was all those sorts, I think, all came together. And for both of us at the time, we thought, hang on a minute, we're educated people, we've been successful in the work that we do. What are we doing? Let's go and do this for ourselves. So we did. And then obviously the recession came and knocked that out. And we thought, well, let's take all that and apply that to something else that we actually do like doing. And that was property. So for us, the why was always to create, a great life for ourselves. We didn't have a family then, but we knew we wanted that family. And as we started that process, we then did have 2 boys, and the why kind of adapted, I think, over time, to become about legacy for them, as well as great life for us and them. So it was always about, for me, living life on my or our terms, as in, we're not beholden to anybody else. It's all on us. If we succeed or not, it's on us. Yeah. And we backed ourselves to be successful.
Building a legacy for family and living life on your terms. And I think people can often think that they need a strong why, because we say you have to have a strong why. You have to connect strongly with your why.
That's the key. Yeah, that's the key. Yeah. Yeah. If it doesn't give you goosebumps when you think or talk about it, then it's not strong enough, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And occasionally you get students that, I just want money. I just want to be rich, or I want, all these toys and cars and things. And I think, well, okay, we need to work on that. Yeah. Because I know that isn't your actual why.
Yeah. When you strip it back, none of it's about money.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I know we're going to talk about some mentorship stories as well, Sarah. But so I'll bring one in now. I was on a mentorship with a chap a few years back now, and he was a bit like that. And the first thing we do on a mentorship is talk about the why, because it's so important. Initially, he was all about, I just want to be wealthy, I want to be rich, I want to have loads of money, blah 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 blah. And I didn't let him off the hook. And we sat there. Probably took about 3 hours to get there. But when we stripped it all away, it was we actually wanted to do was to go and build schools in India. That was
that's quite a leap, isn't it, from what he first said?
Yeah. But that was it. And I saw, as soon as he started talking about it, he started like welling up, and I could see he was trying to hold back the tears. And I was like, that's it. That's the why. And they essentially need money to be able to do that.
Yeah.
As you say, you learn to read body language doing what we do, and see the whole posture change, and the eyes light up, and leaning forward and talking, and all that kind of stuff is just a massive beacon that says, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. So moving on from what we want to do,
yes, I digress.
What do you think are the 3 key behaviour traits? What are the 3 sort of key things that a property investor needs?
Well, I'm going to say the same as one of yours, which is persistence. Absolutely. If you don't have that level of persistence, you're going to allow blocks to just stop you. The second one is follow advice of people who've been there and done it before.
Oh, that's a great one.
Sounds obvious, doesn't it? When you think about it logically, why wouldn't you just listen to someone that's done it?
Yeah.
Right. And just do what they did. Really obvious, but you'd be amazed at how many people kind of overthink it and start adding other bits in or taking bits away from the advice and kind of thinking they know better. Now, it sounds a bit arrogant, but it's like, well, look, if you're just starting out, and I've been doing it 15 years, and look, you can see the stuff that we've done, why wouldn't you listen? And why wouldn't you think, I'm just going to model that? Going to model that behavior. And you might not do it exactly. I'm not saying do exactly what we did, but it's more about modeling the behaviors, I think.
Yeah. And it's why make the same mistakes that that someone else has made, learn from them. I think making mistakes is something we all have to do in order to grow, but we don't have to make every mistake, do we? We can learn from someone else's making those mistakes that we don't have to, and we can forge forward a little bit clearer.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of these mistakes can knock you back, and they can financially hurt you. And there's so much advice that we have within our network that can just stop all that. You can just leapfrog all of that and just go so much quicker. You'll say the same thing. I know that when I started out, when we did our training originally, that's all we thought. We thought we're literally just paying here to not make these mistakes. Brilliant. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Right. And we can just start from a higher point of not having to spend 1, 2, 3 years doing all that. We can now start from this point. We've got this knowledge. We're not going to make those silly mistakes, and we can build from that.
Yeah, I think that's really key. And I remember when we first started our property education, and we'd paid an amount of money for it, and someone said to us, it could have been you, Nick, you've actually brought a seat at the table, and so therefore you go and talk to everyone at that table, because that's where your learning really, really comes. So I think that's a great one to have. What's your third?
Well, my third one I've had to rapidly kind of reassess because it was going to be about money as well. So I am going to just touch on that because I think it's so important. It's really similar actually to what you said, which was I wish I could go back and tell myself at the beginning that actually raising money is fun and not as difficult as I thought it was going to be, and to take all the assumptions away. It's very, very easy to put loads of assumptions in place. Why would anyone lend money to me? What have I got? If someone's really wealthy, what would they be doing talking to me? It's just, you've got to get rid of all of that, because the reality is that there's lots of people that will listen to you and they will like what you're doing. And you're absolutely right. It's the same, really. Raising 50 grand is 5 million. You're just talking to different people.
Yeah. And it's not that those people are more intelligent, are better, are some sort of superhuman. They're not. And I think that's something that people always think, that people with money are some sort of untouchable gurus, and they're really not. So just talk to them as you would ordinarily, present the opportunity. It's a win-win.
Absolutely. There's one of our potential investors we're speaking to. He's just a high net worth guy who's been really successful in his job. But you talk to him, he's the most down to earth, normal bloke you could chat to. He just got his criteria, what he lends on, and that's it. If he likes it and he wants to lend on it, there you go. There's cash. So it's to just remove all the assumptions about money and do that. But I'm going to have another one as well. I'm going to stick another one in there, Sarah, if that's right, because you said about money. So I'm going to put another one in, which is celebrate success. I think that successful investors will celebrate the wins along the way. And I think that's a really important one as well. It's very easy to keep going, well, I haven't got where I want to go yet, so I'll defer, delay. I won't celebrate that. But you should, I think. At the beginning you celebrate them. I'm quite bad. I've had to kind of, really force that, I think, and just make it, even if it's just a little point, just like, look, we just acknowledge it. We'll open a bottle of wine, a bottle of fizz if we're feeling really kind of flush, Sarah, and we'll just acknowledge it. Look, that was good. Yeah, cool. All right, on to the next problem, but let's just acknowledge that we did that. Right. Any mentorship stories, Sarah, that can encapsulate any of those terms, any of those things we've talked about?
Yeah, I think, sometimes it's not always because I think people think that mentorships are, going to change your life and you're going to find the purchase that changes everything for you. And I think that happens. Don't get me wrong, that does happen. But sometimes it's actually the process of what you go through, isn't it? So, yeah. I did a mentorship with a younger lad up north, and it was one of my favorites because he was just so driven, and his mindset was amazing. And a bit like how when you were talking to Gary, why are you doing this? He kind of went through the motions, and then, you needed to have that reset on what it was he actually needed to do. When I was talking to this young chap on our first morning, it was very much, he's like, so we're going to go and look at some houses. I was like, oh God, this is going to be really exciting because, I think he's a really capable, intelligent lad with loads of drive, and why has he suddenly not got any when I'm talking about property? And I just said to him, it doesn't feel like you're really enjoying this, dude. What's going on? And he said, oh, it's all right, but what I really want is to build up my business. And he was in construction. And I said, well, should we work on that for a bit instead? Because it's property related and it would open lots of doors for him on a property as well. So we spent quite a lot of that mentorship actually working on his, because I love small business and the strategy side of it. We built up a business plan for his, bear in mind he was only 20 at the time, built up a business plan for his construction business and developed a website for him and literally put everything together for him to go and dominate in his construction business, and then tied that back into property as to the things that he could do with his construction business that then dovetailed. We actually found him a house on mentorship, which he's still in. He's just had his second child in there because it was going to be a flip. And then it turned out pregnancies and all this sort of stuff. It's the perfect family home for him. And he got it at such a good deal. And we found that, and it wasn't what he was expecting. We were going out looking at 60k houses. He ended up buying a 250k house, which is now worth, far, far, far more than that. And his construction business is flying. Like, he's been on TV different programs and radio programs with the construction. And I just love it because it was so different to normal mentorship. So that's absolutely one of my favorites.
Amazing. I mean, that's it doesn't, mentorship's going to be about it's always about the person. It doesn't have to be what you think it is. And that's our job as mentors, is to identify that, isn't it? And say, well, look, we're not just because we're here supposedly to go buy houses, that's what we're going to do, but to change and adapt. And I'm sure he would look back and say that mentorship was amazing, even though you didn't potentially go and look at loads and loads of houses, but what you did was completely set him on the right path.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me wrong. We saw the house as well. We just packed a lot in.
Yeah.
And we got him. We bought him a house on that mentorship, which has worked out really well. So that's definitely one of my little favourites. And I'm still in touch with him now. But there's lots and lots of great stories that come through but mainly it's because people have changed their mindset. And the fear has gone. So we've got some amazing PWS students called Alex and Kate, based in Wales, who we did a mentorship for in Wales. Probably, I don't know, maybe it was 2 years ago. They'd correct me probably. It's probably longer than that. And they were, I don't think they'll mind me saying, they were quite fearful. They didn't know how to speak to an estate agent. They kind of said, oh, we've tried this and we've tried this before in life and it's never worked. And, what if we fail at this? And it was that sort of, mindset that they came in with. And, working with them over the 2 days in the field, but more importantly, the time we spent before that, analysing strategy, getting to know them, and then also after that, in terms of the follow-up sessions of all our mentorships. Those guys now have got, over 5 properties. I think they're onto their 6th or 7th property in the last 2 years, whilst also, holding down permanent jobs and a family. Kate's about to launch her own business, which is what we discussed on that mentorship. I said to her, you're doing this as a job right now and you're contracted for these hours and those hours are given to somebody else. What if you did that for yourself and then you could do it on your terms? And she was like, oh, right, okay, how could that look? So we, again, not so much detail, but we put up that business plan for her, showed her what it could look like. And she launched that about three weeks ago. So I'm just delighted because it shows the long-term effects of what those days in the field and, the surrounding time with her on Zooms, what it can actually achieve.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, we've got so many stories like that. I think we should do a whole nother episode on loads of stories. And perhaps let's put it out there to listeners, tell us what you want to hear. If you've got any ideas on, what kind of things you want to hear in terms of mentorship stories or anything else property related, give us a like on here. Send us a message. You can catch us at propertywealthsystem.co.uk.
On Instagram at This Property Life.
Yeah, This Property Life on Insta. So send us a message if you've enjoyed this and let us know what else you want to hear. If you want to contact Sarah personally, you can contact Sarah at...
you can email me at sarah@doodleandpatch.com. And Nick, yourself?
For me, it'll be nick@claydonproperty.com. So do please connect. We want to hear from you. Give us some feedback and let us know what you want out of this podcast going forward. Yeah, and if you want to hear some more mentorship stories, let us know what you want to hear. We've got hundreds of them. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time, Sarah. It's been great to see you and catch up, and I'm sure we'll see you soon. And thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, Nick.